Hi there and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Ashfab and this is Fab on a Dime, where I share all kinds of money saving content. If you enjoy easy ways of saving money as much as I do, hit that subscribe button and like this video. I love sharing my financial journey with you, and you smashing that subscribe button would help me so much here on this channel. Today I thought I would bring it back to basics and discuss the absolute beginning steps that one should take if they're looking to start budgeting. And this has nothing to do with income at all. You can do these things on any level of income. If you are kind of on the fence about it, but you know you'd really benefit from getting on top of your finances, this is where you have to start. And these are things that you can learn or be reminded of regardless of where you are on your financial journey. These are just going to be the basics of getting your crap together and starting to get a handle on your money. There were so many times in my life when I felt way too overwhelmed by debt and financial stresses, and I didn't even know how to begin. So I hope this video will really help lay out what exactly to do in order to get a head start in the right direction. The very first thing I recommend is to figure out exactly how much money you spend on a monthly basis. Tracking expenses is the beginning step, in my opinion, to successfully coming up with a spending plan. This may sound really daunting and difficult, but I promise you that it's not. We have too much technology for this to be hard. I have tracked every purchase I have ever made over the last several years, and I promise it's not because I'm great with keeping logs. I actually have a whole video breaking down the easiest possible way to track your purchases, so please go check that out for a step-by-step guide to a very simple way of accomplishing this. I use Mint to track my expenses, which is a user-friendly tool that does most of the work for you. It's not perfect, obviously, and there are other things you have to consider, like cash purchases, but this is a great place to start. So go watch that video again if you would like a clearer understanding of how to successfully track your spending. Your goal in this step should be to figure out exactly how much money you tend to spend on each spending category. Spending categories include fixed payments that you pay every single month, like your rent or mortgage payments, insurance payments, any debts that you owe, your phone payments, etc. They also include other things you spend money on, like groceries, gas, takeout, clothing, the list goes on and on and on. You have to get a better picture of exactly where you put your money on a monthly basis. And I have to tell you how important this step is. There's really not much you can do beyond this step, because if you try and budget without knowing how much you're actually spending, you're going in completely blind, and I promise you it will not be successful. You're going to be making up numbers as your goals, and you will fail to reach those goals. You're going to be forgetting expenses that you didn't realize you had every month, or failing to foresee spending categories that are month specific. Simply put, if you skip this step and go straight into budgeting, you're doing yourself a disservice, and it will be so much harder for you. Once you start to track your spending, you'll have a better understanding of where your money is going. Does it line up with your priorities? Maybe you had no idea how many dollars were going towards your beauty routine, and it may not be all that important to you. Either way, you'll learn a lot about yourself, and now you're ready for the next step on your budgeting journey. You can't plan unless you have all the details first. Otherwise, you'll create a budget that doesn't match your habits, you'll fail, get discouraged, and give the whole thing up. And I want to lead you down a path of successful changes and good habits that you can ease into and notice a wonderful difference in your life. Now that you know your spending habits and where your money is going, you can make some judgments for yourself. It's easier once you have the whole picture. This is where I suggest getting a pencil and paper, write down your income or an average amount of money you expect to receive each month. And if you're like me, this changes every month, so just work with the upcoming month's income and go from there. And now, just as an exercise, take the total amount of money that you spent last month and subtract that number from the income you'll receive this month. If you don't like the way that number looks, it's time to make some changes. So now you can review your priorities and decide which categories you might need to work on. If you've been eating out too much, you might want to focus on that restaurant category and look for an improvement with that number, for example. Note the categories that need drastic change and the ones you think you'll struggle with the most. The next step is to write a budget or a spending plan for yourself. This is going to look completely different from person to person, and I can't stress that enough. If you're the kind of person that needs to write things down, pen and paper, don't try to put yourself on a budget app, because that just won't work for you. I know people that have their entire budget on their notes app on their iPhone. Other people die without their spreadsheets. So you have to make this as personalized as possible, because ultimately you are the only one who can hold yourself accountable. Make this as easy as possible for yourself, okay? And don't be afraid to change it up or adjust as you go. This isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. I'm going to show you an example of a budget that I sometimes use. This is actually a budget that I designed specifically for opera singers. So if you'd like to print that out for yourself, I have that available on my blog, fabonadime.net. Just in case there are any opera singers or freelance artists that are watching and interested. The important things to include in your budget are a space for your monthly income and then a list of all the expenses you'll be facing throughout the month. This includes all the fixed payments for the month and the other spending categories like we discussed earlier. Now here's where the first step of tracking spending comes into play. Using that information you received about your spending, it's time to write goals for each of these spending categories. And the most important thing about writing a budget, and the thing I want you to remember the most from this video, is that the goals you create for yourself must be reasonable. It's great to have lofty visions for our money, but if you write down goals for your spending that are unrealistic, you're playing a very dangerous game. It may seem like a good idea now to have a low number written into that budget, but once your month gets going and you end up overspending on that category, you're likely to get discouraged. You're going to throw the whole thing out the window. You're definitely not going to feel like following through once it's time to write in the final numbers on your budget, and you won't continue down this path. So I want to see you succeed and get on top of your finances. So please write down goals that are easily attainable. You can make progress as you go, but baby steps are the way to go on your budget. If you're writing a budget for the very first time, you're bound to forget important expenses that will pop up during the month. Some things to watch out for are holidays, if you're planning on celebrating or buying gifts, etc., or any event in which you're planning on going out or cooking for a large number of people. Are you traveling this month? You'll have to take into account gas and lodging. Looking back on previous month's expenses is going to help you a lot here in your planning, so don't skip that first step. And once you've come up with the goals that you feel are attainable for each spending category, it's time to implement your budget. I used to keep making the mistake of creating a budget and then setting it down and totally forgetting about it throughout the month. You have to keep track of it throughout, so don't just set it down and forget it. I suggest keeping your budget in a place where you can see it. You need to keep your goals fresh on your mind so you're not too tempted to overspend. Hopefully the amounts that you wrote down were attainable and not crazy or off the wall, so you'll have no problem feeling motivated to stick to them. Once your month is over, it's so important to take this next step. It's just as important as writing your budget at the beginning of the month. You must go back to the budget you created, whether it's on a spreadsheet, a worksheet, or just a piece of paper or your phone, and you have to input the amount you actually spent. As an example, if my goal was to only spend $100 on takeout, and I check my spending and I only spent $74, I write that number, 74, next to my goal number, 100. I then subtract that from my original total to see that I saved $26. Do this to every single category. Even if you went over budget, you have to see the whole picture in order to adjust your budget for the next month. Once everything is written in, you can see the total amount of money you managed to save. Pat yourself on the back, put it in savings or towards the debt you need to pay off, and then get to work on budgeting for the next month. If you weren't so successful, consider changing up your goals or even the way you chose to write out your budget in the first place. If the notebook paper wasn't successful, try using a worksheet. Change things up until you find something that works for you. Budgeting is not constricting. Your budget is meant to be adjusted and will constantly evolve. It's a tool to aid you and to give you a plan for every single dollar. Keep working at it and make it easier for yourself. Keep changing up your goals, keep trying different methods. You'll find yourself more and more encouraged to build your wealth and save money. Every month, you should learn something from your previous month's budget and make adjustments to set yourself up for the most success. Keep being flexible and changing, and you'll find yourself celebrating your financial wins more and more. And if you find yourself in a place where you can't get motivated or you're struggling to stick to it, never fear, I've got lots of budgeting inspo and tips right here on my YouTube channel, so hit that subscribe button for all of that content, and find me on Instagram for lots of tips and updates on my own financial journey. And if this video was helpful, I would really appreciate a like, and I'll see you in the next one.